Hello, I was asked if I could do a video like this, so I will do one quickly. I've got 5 minutes. Saying that, I'm going to ramble on and probably go a lot longer than that. 4090 journey, I should say. Call wine, good and bad cards. Supreme X, first one. Premium build, premium fans, everything about it looks and feels premium. Great card, bad call wine. Now I'll go straight to the end on that one because supposedly there has been a revision of that, and the core wine, I don't know if it's been completely obviously wiped out because the chance of that is very little, but supposedly it's a lot less than it was. Now, until someone actually gets the card and decides to have a look at to see what revision it is, we won't know for sure. But I have had a few people say they've been got hold of the Supreme X recently, and the core wine has been improved. Don't know whether that's just because it's their PC setup, whether they've been lucky with the card, or whether there has been a revision. So I can't confirm that one, but the rumour is that the cards have gotten better. But yeah, for the card itself, great. Everything about it, great. Core wine on the ones I had, bad. Strix OC. Big card, heavy card, looks great, feels like the Supreme. It's quality through and through, the way it feels. 2 HDMIs, really good card. Its fans are quieter than the Supreme. It cools better as well. It's the best cooling card there is, but then again, it should be for how much metal there is and the size of it. Again, great card. Core wine worse than the Supreme X. Asus know that it's bad because they're releasing their new Matrix card, which is a liquid metal cooled card. It looks really nice. It's probably going to cost the earth. It's got 2 big pipes out the front and goes up to a 360 radiator. Looks really, really nice. And they also, one of the things in there that they plug is the fact that they've addressed the call wine, and they've done something to obviously either reduce it to a very, very small amount or make it non-existent, which I don't think you ever can make it non-existent, but who knows. So yeah, they know they have an issue. So yeah, the Strix, great card, bad call wine. Zotac Extreme feels cheaper, looks cheaper. Great LEDs, you've got like about 5 different zones on it, so that was really nice. Performance wise, if you're not really pushing any of these cards, they're all kind of in line with each other. If you run them around about the 60-70 FPS, or which I'm doing with my 120 Hz TV, if you're going to go for more frames, or you're wanting to do online shooters or something like that, and you're going to run it on higher, that's when you'll probably start seeing the differences. But yeah, it was a good card. Its temps weren't as great. Its memory temps was higher. Card temps, to be honest, I can't remember the card temps, because one of the issues that I did come across, and hundreds of other people did, and we complained about it, was the fans. Don't know if they've changed them now, if it was a bad batch or what. It didn't matter how fast they span. As soon as they started up, you could hear a motor noise, and it was like a bearing noise. It sounded like fans that had been on there for like 10 years. You could hear like a bearing noise, or if it was like the actual motor itself. I couldn't really tell you what it was, but there was hundreds of us. There's posts on Reddit, and there was even people in Japan that reached out to me to say they've got it. I've not heard of it for a while, so they may have listened to us in the end and actually swapped the fans out and not told anyone. But I know there was literally hundreds of people return their cards because they loved the card, and they were just like, "What is this noise?" And you could hear it. As I said, the worst thing is even when they started spinning slowly, it doesn't matter how fast they span, you could hear this noise. As soon as they got power, you could hear it, which is a shame, because that was a real letdown. I would have probably ended up keeping that card had it not been for that, because it had no core wine that you could really complain about. There was a little bit, but nothing that you could really complain about. If I ever got cards until the day I die kind of thing, and it had that kind of core wine, I'd be very happy. It was really, really small amount. It's probably about a quarter of what the Supreme and the Strix had. Well, the Strix was worse actually. But yeah, so that went back. Gigabyte Gaming, good cooling. The card does look on the cheaper side, on the cheaper build. The LEDs was, I can't remember if there was any on there. If there was, I think there was maybe only just one. I don't remember much about it. But performance-wise and everything, it was great. And then one day I restarted the PC, a load of smoke came out of this back fan. Not too happy about that. Turned it off. Long story short, it went back. I actually thought that the fan had burnt out. I was thinking it happened with the fan, but when they tested it, it said the fan's spinning. And I said, well, you need to have a look internally. They and ahed about it, and then they did have a look internally, and they said, yeah, there's a burn mark on the PCB. They didn't say what it was. They didn't say if it was a power phase or whatever it was, but something had a burn mark, and so I ended up with a refund on that one. I've not really seen anything or anybody mention about that, so I might have just been obviously cursed yet again. I went back to the Strixes and the Supreme, and nothing changed. Both great cards, both bad call wine. I took another Supreme in the end. It started off with the call wine was a little bit better, but after a week or two, it was kind of back to square one. I ended up just calling it a day, just thinking, well, I'll just stick with it. I can't do anything more. And leading up to that, in amongst all these different card swaps and everything, the cable mod cable has been fantastic, not a problem. Played all the different games and everything, and then I stopped playing Cyberpunk, which was the highest power draw game, and then I got the cable mod adapter when it was launched, and I was using that. Now, when I first got it and I touched it and like obviously make sure everything's in, I think I was playing something like the Assassin's Creed and older games, and it felt warm, but it didn't feel too bad. Now, skip ahead, and I stopped playing Cyberpunk, but I did go on to Diablo 4 from, say, about maybe 4 weeks maybe. And I happened to have my hand in there, and I touched the cable mod adapter, and it was red hot, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy hot. Now, I know the back plate's there to take away the heat, like if you put your hand on the back of a GPU, you can feel it, but I thought, that's really strange. I ended up emailing cable mod and just saying, should it really be this hot? They said, yeah, that's the reason why it's there, don't worry about it. 2 days later, it melted. I went back on Cyberpunk, and that kind of like was probably the final nail in the coffin because of how much power that thing can draw that game. So that is sitting in the box waiting to go to Germany. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the whole postage side of things, because UK to Europe now is a bit of a nightmare with expensive things are going for repair and the customs, what they're asking and the details. So I'm just waiting on some another reply email from Cable Mod, and hopefully that'll be sorted, but it's expensive anyway. But they're going to cover the cost for it to go to Germany. It'll get repaired and then sent back to me, at which point, as long as this card doesn't explode into like an atomic bomb or something like that, knowing my luck, I will probably sell this the Supreme and keep this one, because this one, the core wine, is next to nothing. I think the only one which makes it a little bit of noise is Red Dead, but Red Dead is like the ultimate test for getting core wine. But on Cyberpunk and stuff like that, I literally have to sit here and put my head up against the case to be able to hear it. So at the moment, happy with this. So the Supreme, when it gets fixed, I'll probably be the one that has to go for sale. I would have preferred they actually just said, hey, send us the card and we'll cover the cost for this one, but yeah, at least it's getting fixed anyway. It might even get that new power adapter on it as well. Speaking of which, I'm not really concerned because this has obviously got the old one on there. It's just the shorter sense pins and stuff that are on the new one. I'm more concerned about the actual version 2 of the cables, and when they're going to bring out the RTX 3 upgraded. Whatever changes on there that's going to happen as well. I don't know if it'll be by the end of this year, because obviously it'll hit the Asian markets first and then it'll come over to Europe and things after that. So maybe we'll see them at the end of this year. As for the cables, I would say we're probably going to see them, I would think within the next month. I think they'll be rushing those out. My advice for anyone who's buying cables, cable mod cable, excellent, not had an issue, fingers crossed. I personally wouldn't touch the adapter. It's just another thing that can go wrong. There is a version 2 of the adapter on the way. That might be worthwhile holding out for if you need to, because I know some people just can't get these cards in their case without an adapter because of the way it sits and stuff like that, and sides, panels and things. But if you can wait, I would wait for version 2 of that adapter. I personally wouldn't touch version 1. That's just my 2 pennies worth on that. So yeah, that's how it stands at this moment in time. The Supreme X is going to go back, and this is the one which I'll probably end up keeping. Cable mod cable good, cable mod adapter If you have one, I personally would remove it for now and see what happens. There's just too many reports on the cable mod page where I think it's about, I'd say probably about 3 a day at least, of people showing off their melted adapters. I hardly ever see anything to do with cables, not just from Cable Mod, but from any other manufacturer. It's very rare to see that, and some of them might just be because they've used a really cheap, crappy cable. I don't remember seeing anything on the Cable Mod side. I know some people have issues where they think it's the same, but it's not. Where they're saying the screen's going blank and the fans are doing this, that. What that is, it's there's some sense wires, and what's happening is when people are pulling out, they're being a bit rough, and the sense wires are coming out, and that's what's causing that. That's not the same thing as the whole melting side of things. So if anyone's wondering about that side. Anyway, that was just a brief rambling about 4090s and yeah, things that I found. I would like to have tried other cards just to see what they were like. I know some of the cheaper cards people have been raving about, just saying, oh, it's got no call wine, it's great, this, that, and the other. The reason why I avoided some of the other ones like the PNY, and I think there was another one, was more so because I'd seen like Igor's Lab and other things where they'd done teardowns of different PCBs, and they were saying that externally it might be okay, but internally it's about as cheap as you can get, and there's just enough on there just to be able to scrape through as a 4090. So some of the PCBs weren't layout, and the parts used weren't particularly great. Yeah. As for what causes call wine as well, when people go on about it, God, right, quickly. You got the card itself, you got PSU, motherboard can sometimes do it, and how it gels and gets on with everything. I've had that before. Wall socket, grounding for your house. Some people have to use UPS filters to get around that as well. It might just be a combination of different things. It could actually be the batch parts inside your card, where if they run out of a certain type of inductor or from a certain factory, as long as it's the same spec, they'll buy it from a different one. But that change in inductor and cap could actually be the reason why yours has got call wine and somebody else's hasn't. But these are all things which they don't tell you about unless you actually took the cards apart and expected the actual batch numbers of the parts that are on each card and things like that. There's a long list. So when people just say it's this, that, and the other, it's like, no, there's about 10 different things you can go through. Now, granted, 95% of the time it's purely down to the card and the parts that they've used, but there is other things that it can be as well. You can even have cables. I've seen people where they've actually swapped out cables on different GPUs in the past, and the cable has rectified call wine. So there is quite a long list as to why they do what they do. But yeah, 95% of the time it is purely just the card, and you're kind of a bit screwed if you've got a bad one, because you could end up changing this, that, costing a fortune, driving you mad, and no difference. So I think the only one, if you're really determined that you want to change something in your machine to try and get rid of call wine, would be your PSU. But anything like that, you'd always want to try and get from somewhere where you can at least return it if it doesn't work out. Anyway, rambling again. It was meant to be short. It's not. Right. Bye.